let's have a little bit of an education piece. I want to talk about gear changes.
Before we get to the Coolmore.
Before we get to the Coolmore,
Right.
let's get back to school. Now, back to school, there's a couple of things I want to touch on really quickly. There's so many gear changes out there that we look for, and we've got blinkers on, blinkers off, winkers on, tongue tie on, pacifiers, shoes, different shoes.
Nose rolls, crossover nose bands, the full kit.
Correct. Now, is there any that you look for when doing the form?
I think probably a main one's going to be like blinkers on for the first time. And I think when trainers wait a while to let the horse be educated, I know you sometimes hear a lot of inexperienced owners go, geez, if the trainer only whacked the blinkers on this horse and it'd sharpen it up quicker. But you got to remember, a lot of trainers are trying to get the horse to actually settle on its own and not use the blinkers. And sometimes they'll wait. And when you get blinkers on first time, if it's the right horse, it just does need to sharpen up a bit, maybe just get that little bit of a perk up and a little bit more focus. That can be one gear change that you really know that, one, that they think that the horse is there to win, and two, if they've never done it before and they've waited a long time for it, they're obviously doing that for some reason. So go and have a look as to why. Go and have a look at those runs, but blinkers on first time, number one in regards to the gear changes from the positive aspect.
Yep. Now, obviously, there's negatives around gear, footwear and shoes.
Bar
plates
plates
and stuff
on.
like that. Now,
Synthetic hoof filler.
It's an interesting one because the market reacts to those kind of gear changes as well. So you might actually get value some of the time, but they don't win very often with the bar plates and any issues with feet. It makes it hard for a horse to win. I just mentioned a couple. Jame's got Equicast first time, which is probably a negative. But race 4, I've just mentioned Pavitra. Blinkers on last start and raced very keenly. Blinkers come off now from an inside barrier. I like that setup. So it might help it settle a bit better second time, 2,000 metres, race keenly last start. So that's an interesting one. Blinkers coming off, I don't mind. There's a few others. Tongue tie on. I'm tipping a horse at big odds off 2 average runs later in the program. Gets the tongue tie on. So that might explain that there's been an issue with its tongue, getting its tongue over the bit, can't breathe properly. Tongue tie goes on, might spark a lot of improvement.
You can see in reports, especially stewards' reports, when a horse will go particularly badly, and for people out there that maybe don't follow it that closely, that the tongue ties obviously keeps the tongue aside so that the bit can sit normally in the mouth. But this is where you can see a horse sometimes in the straight, it doesn't lengthen, doesn't want to fight on, is that it becomes harder for the horse to breathe, is where the tongue actually gets up in behind the bit and essentially blocks the airway. So you're dead right. Tongue tie on means that there was obviously an issue with the tongue at some point, which would then mean in turn that run it had was impeded by the tongue. So that's where you can sometimes get away with finding value in your form line.
Anything to do with feet and tongues and mouth, obviously, and throat, big watches.
Foot, hand and mouth. Sounds like some sort of disease.
We push on.
Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.